Merry Christmas. Happy 11th day of Christmas. Thanks for joining us for 12 days of Christmas devotions, pandemic style, here at Prince of Peace Lutheran Church. We're certainly looking forward when we can be together at the church, but we're thankful we have this time together now. James Montgomery, who wrote our Christmas hymn for today, Angels from the Realms of Glory, was probably very familiar with the concept of angels and God's messengers and the prompters of the Holy Spirit guiding and directing one's life. It's a tough subject, but let's phrase it. How do you actually know it's God speaking? How do you know when God is talking? I cannot imagine Joseph from our text today hanging out with the guys down at the carpenter shop and saying, hey guys, you wouldn't believe the dream I had last night. And an angel from God told me to not be afraid, that Mary was pregnant immaculately and I shouldn't be afraid. And he even told me what to name the baby, not Joseph, but to name him Jesus. When James Montgomery was 6 in 1777, his parents had a vision at night of an angel, a radical vision. And from that vision, they sent him off to seminary at 6 years old, a Moravian boarding school. And they left for the West Indies to become missionaries. By the time he was 11, his parents had contracted an illness and died, and he coped with all of that. Religious boarding school, loss of your parents. He coped with it by turning inward and writing poetry, which became his one great love in life. He got kicked out of the seminary, or maybe couldn't afford to stay at the boarding school. And he briefly held jobs as a baker's assistant and a candle maker's assistant, but his head was always in the clouds. He was always doing poetry. And so he tried to say, how can I make a living at this? And he took a job at a radical newspaper, the Sheffield Register in Sheffield, England. And 2 years later, the owner of the newspaper, to avoid persecution and prosecution by the church and the Church of England, fled to the United States of America and just left the newspaper to young James Montgomery. And that night, James Montgomery says God told him that with a gift like this, he should use it for good. And he used that newspaper for the next 15 years to speak out against slavery and against child labor. The kid who got kicked out of seminary boarding school wrote more than 400 hymn text, and 50 of them were published. The tune, however, was written by a guy named Henry Smart. Great name, Henry Smart. You heard God's voice the way I think most of us has, probably by osmosis. People would ask, you might have had an experience of conversion, but in my case, I just always knew Jesus because that's the kind of world that I was raised in. Henry Smart's parents were professional musicians. Violinists, conductors, both mom and dad were conductors, and publishers. They sent him to law school, but music is what moved his soul. He was highly regarded, improvisational skills, and he was an organist, a famous organist, like our Jeremy Bankson. And the tune is named after the church where he served for 40 years, St. Philip's Regent Square Church. The tune's called Regent Square. This I found really interesting. For the last 10 years of his ministry as a practicing organist, he was blind, completely blind, and he kept composing and playing. His daughter was the one who wrote down so that this tune could be shared. Another tune in our hymnal written by Henry Smart, Lead On, O King Eternal. Both are exceedingly inspirational songs. Special thanks to our quarantine choir that has gotten us through online worship for allowing us to sing with them today. Angels from the Realms of Glory.